But let me just say that Africa Day is an extremely important annual event that is on the calendar of African states, Africans in the diaspora, and supporters of Africa Day all around the world. And this event is being held at an important moment in Jamaican history and heritage, because yesterday we commemorated Labor Day and called attention to all those who struggled for freedom, because the end of slavery did not end colonialism. We applaud the victims of revolutionary struggles to end slavery, racial apartheid, and colonial rule, and call on the perpetrators to right the wrongs of the past. Thabo Mbeki, in his speech, "I Am an African," reminded us of those who keep an audible silence about these ancestors of the generations that live, fearful to admit the horror of a former deed, seeking to obliterate from our memories a cruel occurrence, which in its remembering should teach us not and never to be inhuman again. This is why today we celebrate Africa-Caribbean solidarity, which has a long genealogy that goes beyond the anti-apartheid and independence or decolonization struggles with which most of us are familiar, and in which Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, Cuba included, played such a key role. So as we position ourselves as a people who have made outstanding contributions to the development of societies and nations throughout history, and continue to do so today, we sankofa the journey, recognizing Africa for all Africans. We are not Africans because we were born in Africa, but because Africa was born in us, to quote Kwame Nkrumah. So let us join hands across the Caribbean and the African continent to participate in this grand project of iconic reclamation and decolonization. And remember Jules Ellinger's words: there has never been a statue or monument or plaque, we could add, erected in the memory of someone who let well enough alone. Sometimes you just have to disturb your neighbor. A very special welcome, of course, to His Excellency, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa. To, of course, a very special welcome also to Most Honorable Andrew Holness, our Prime Minister of Jamaica. I welcome, of course, Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Her Excellency Lumka Yengeni, High Commissioner for South Africa in Jamaica, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and Dr. the Honorable Naledi Pandor, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, and Mr. Peter Morgan of Morgan Heritage. Also with us today is former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Most Honorable P.J. Patterson, Honorable Michael Lester Henry, MP, Dr. Julius Garvey, and NCR Chair, Mrs. Lalita Davis Mattis. Welcome to our online audience, the organizers and members of the media, as well as to the collaborating entities, the National Council of Reparations, the Center for Reparation Research at the UWI, and the P.J. Patterson Center for Africa-Caribbean Advocacy, also located at the UWI. Now, it is time to ask Honorable Minister Grange to give her own opening remarks, set the context, and tell you why we are here today. But let me introduce her. We have to introduce you, Minister. The Honorable Olivia Grange has served as Member of Parliament for the constituency of Central St. Catherine since 1997, and is currently the longest serving woman MP in the House of Representatives. She was appointed Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport in March 2016, following the mandate from the people of Jamaica for the Jamaica Labour Party to lead the government. Her wide portfolio includes arts and culture, cultural and creative industries, entertainment and media arts, gender affairs, heritage, publications like legal deposits, national commemorative events, reparations, religious and faith-based organizations, and sport. Superwoman. In addition to leading the ministry, she oversees 12 agencies and 5 statutory bodies, all charged with ensuring that their decisions and actions contribute towards delivering increased levels of prosperity to all, increased gender equality and harmony between men and women, and increased promotion, preservation, and celebration of the Jamaican culture. Minister Grange also serves as chairman of the Jamaican National Commission for UNESCO. Minister, it's my pleasure to ask you to address us at this time.
His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Honorable Dr. Grace Naledi Pandor, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Senator, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in Jamaica, Her Excellency Lumka Yengeni, my cabinet colleagues, the Most Honorable P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Consul General Taylor and Consul General Palmer, Professor Sir Hilary Beckers, Chairman of the CARICOM Reparations Commission and Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, the Honorable Mike Henry, Dr. Julius Garvey, Mrs. Davis Mattis, and Mr. Cordell Green, esteemed participants of our second session, members of the National Council on Reparation, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Africa Day celebrations and conversation with Africa. Today, we have the distinct privilege of having the clarion call for recognition, justice, and development for Africans and people of African descent, and for the long overdue reparations for people, sounded by leaders from both sides of the Atlantic, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness and His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa. We pause to honor the leadership and legacy of President Ramaphosa, a chief architect of the liberation movement in South Africa, as we do our own Prime Minister, albeit the first post-independence born leader of the nation, PM Holness. Commitment to achieving reparatory justice is manifest through lived examples of providing internal reparations in our history for our people here in Jamaica. As Jamaica and South Africa joined forces in the liberation struggle decades ago, it's fitting then that these two leaders would today share in the cause for reparatory justice and advancement of all African and people of African descent. This battle cry will be echoed throughout our regions and reverberate globally until these notable goals are achieved. We're here today celebrating the triumphs of liberation, which have won for us the right to self-determination, while acknowledging the challenges experienced by people of African descent, including women and girls who still today face intersecting issues in society, which are in part the legacy of centuries-long imposition of slavery and the practices of discrimination and segregation initiated by the transatlantic slave trade, apartheid, and other forms of suppression and oppression. Today, as we mark Africa Day, we commit ourselves to the fight against the repetition of historical tragedies. Sadly, we see evidence of them still today in the form of the worst behaviors of mankind. We repudiate and resist them. Not to do so would be to betray our ancestors, whose blood was spilled in wars of liberation so that we can live as free people here in Jamaica. We will never forget our heroes who died for our liberty, among them the Right Excellent Sam Sharp, who was hanged on May 23, 1832, Taki, and many other men and women. We remember the victims of the 1960 Sam Sharpeville massacre in South Africa, the Sharpeville massacre in South Africa, of people demonstrating. We remember Wiggy Bakela, James Beshi, Ephraim Chaka, Gilbert Demo, Elliot Kabe, Miriam Lekita, and Paulina Mafulaste, and many others. They inspired the latter anti-apartheid activities whose names we speak with greater familiarity. Steve Biko, Winnie and Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, Walter Sisulu, Albertina Sisulu, and so many more. As peoples bonded by complex histories, it is against the backdrop of our triumphs, shared rich cultures, strong traditions, and stellar achievements that we take up the responsibility to facilitate the dialogue that unearths truths and forges reconciliation, renew and maintain engagement in furtherance of our lasting cooperation within the African family, and urge unified and sustained movement towards achieving reparatory justice for people, including reparation for people of African descent. We continue the important dialogue which we began in Durban, South Africa on 8 September 2001. It was there that issues and challenges faced by people of African descent were recognized in the World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance. At this time, I wish to express my appreciation to all those who have made themselves available to participate in this very historic event. I thank you all and wish for you all peace, safety, one love, one aim, one destiny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Grange, for your inspiring comments and your remarks. And it's my pleasure now to call on Her Excellency to give her own remarks on behalf of her mission. Her Excellency Lumka Yengeni, High Commissioner of South Africa. A little bit about her. High Commissioner Lumka Elizabeth Yengeni is the head of mission at the South African High Commission in Jamaica. And she also represents the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Commonwealth of Dominica, Belize, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda. And she's ambassador to Haiti. Her mandate is to promote the national foreign interests of the government of South Africa through building, forging stronger economic and political cooperation with the above-mentioned countries. Her Excellency has been a member of Parliament in the South African government since 2004, serves as a permanent representative of the Republic of South Africa to International Seaboard Authority, ISA, and in her own right understands the importance of revolutionary struggles against systems of oppression. Your Excellency.
Moderator, Professor Vereni Shepherd, Honorable President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Madamela Cyril Ramaphosa, the Most Honorable Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, Honorable Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor of the Republic of South Africa for International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, for Jamaica. Honorable Minister Olivia Grange of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport for Jamaica, and all protocol observed. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the loving people of Jamaica and their government for recognizing the Republic of South Africa, which I am privileged to represent today. As you are aware, South Africa, as a member of the African Union, is actively involved with promoting the integration of the African continent, and in so doing, recognizing and regards members of the African diaspora as the sixth region of the continent. This, therefore, means that this region is integral in terms of importance, given the number of people, African descent, who make countries in the Caribbean their home. Our relations with the Caribbean dates back decades, especially during the days when your support for our liberation struggle was invaluable. The initial target for hosting this webinar was when South Africa was chair of the Union, AU, the African Union. However, as you are aware, apart from fulfilling our role, our president, as chair, had to support leading an African initiative to ensure that the continent is not further disadvantaged by effects of COVID-19 and does not get left behind in ensuring access in terms of equity of vaccines. Therefore, timing was not on our side. What was originally intended was that the Most Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Holness would organize the meeting between CARICOM and the African Union to discuss how issues could be expedited for implementation. Based on these circumstances, as you are aware, Jamaica offered to host a webinar between Jamaica and South Africa. In this regard, it is my appeal that all necessary influence are used to support making the dreams of the Africans in the diaspora a reality. South Africa has a long tradition of advocating for the inclusion of all members of the African diaspora to be formally included and recognized as the legitimate members of the sixth region. Former African President Thabo Mbeki was a tireless advocate for what I have just said and placed emphasis on this at the African Union during South Africa's chairship at that time. You will recall that during the Third World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance, that this position was formally adopted. Given the many continued challenges that we face globally, it is imperative that we work together to ensure that within the shortest times and by no later than the first quarter of 2022, the AU and CARICOM webinar is held. As South Africa, we remain confident that your experience in the multilateral arena will lend itself to make this a reality. South Africa and Jamaica share many realities in terms of level of development and socio-economic challenges, but our respective countries are recognized for the political contribution they make towards advocating for a better world and the development of the countries of the South. We can use all of our identified areas for cooperation between South Africa and Jamaica as the basis on which to build a solid foundation for cooperation between the African Union and CARICOM, and in so doing, work towards greater development for all of our peoples. I remain at your disposal as we work towards realization of a unified diaspora for the duration of my tenure in Jamaica and in the Caribbean community. I wish to use this opportunity to thank the Most Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Holness for accepting me and the warm welcome that I received from him and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, on my arrival to the island. On behalf of the government and the living beautiful people of Jamaica. In closing, I wish to thank His Excellency, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa of the Republic of South Africa, my country of origin, for the confidence he has shown in me and in my ability to represent and promote South Africa's interests in this great Caribbean community with considerable and distinguished historical links and heritage with Africans in the diaspora. I thank you.
And now, before we hear our heads of government, we're going to break it up a little and hear from Peter Morgan of Morgan Heritage. Peter Morgan is from the Grammy-nominated, award-winning Jamaican reggae band Morgan Heritage, formed in 1994 by children of reggae artist Denroy Morgan. For decades, Peter's distinctive voice has led Morgan Heritage on some of the biggest anthems in modern roots reggae. And you know some of them: Don't Have It Dread to Be Rasta, Down by the River, and She's Still Loving Me. So, Peter Morgan.
Hey, yeah. Wonderful world, beautiful people, you and your girl, things could be pretty, but underneath this, there is a secret that nobody can reveal.
African people, we love music and we love Peter Morgan. Reggae music on Africa Day, universal music. I'm going to now call on Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith to introduce our most honorable Prime Minister. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She received her appointment as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Jamaica on 7th March 2016. In December 2009, Minister Johnson-Smith was appointed government senator, and from January 2012 served as an opposition senator with the responsibility of opposition whip. Always like that title. She was also appointed the spokesperson on education and youth in February 2015. In addition to her portfolio responsibilities, the minister has a keen interest in governance, in education, youth, and gender affairs, and has successfully tabled parliamentary motions regarding public sector governance, reintegration of teen mothers in the formal school system, and the review of laws related to violence against women, children, the elderly, and persons living with disabilities. Honorable Minister, please let us hear from you about the person we're going to have speak to us next.
The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Your Excellency Matemala Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Dr. Naledi Mandisa Pandor, my sister and counterpart, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport for Jamaica, Your Excellency Lumka Yengeni, South African High Commissioner to Jamaica, other distinguished guests and viewers around the world, including, most importantly, our diaspora. Happy Africa Day. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with brothers and sisters to acknowledge the successes of African integration. We laud the work of the African Union, which has led to notable achievements in fostering greater unity between countries and their people, peace, security, and stability on the continent, and promoting sustainable development at the economic, social, and cultural levels. Today's conversation with Africa takes place during the International Decade for the People of African Descent. As the vast majority of the citizens of Jamaica and of CARICOM are of African descent, and our common heritage and experiences ground a strong spirit of understanding and fraternity, the region is deeply committed to the program of activities for the implementation of the International Decade, which will contribute to the full implementation of the program of action. Excellencies, I have the honor and privilege of introducing the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, for whom the opportunity today to share this platform with President Ramaphosa is a welcome expression of our common destiny of peace, prosperity, strength, and unity. Prime Minister Holness has dedicated his career in public service to making critical interventions in key portfolios, including social welfare, community development, and housing. Prior to becoming Prime Minister, he had a particularly distinguished tenure as Minister of Education, during which he launched and guided several outstanding programs and initiatives and established new institutions which remain critical today. Under his stewardship, more Jamaicans have moved closer to achieving their full potential as healthy and productive citizens in a safe and just society. Before COVID, our government's achievements included bringing unemployment to historical low rates and cutting poverty by 40%. The recovery of all areas of the society and economy from the pandemic in a sustainable manner is therefore his priority. Excellencies, on the global stage, Prime Minister Holness has shaped Jamaica's foreign policy to be both collaborative and pragmatic. Jamaica has maintained an effective and positive global presence that supports our national development goals and our role as good global citizens. Our international collaboration includes advocacy for small island developing states and middle-income countries on issues such as reforming the international financial architecture, financing for social and economic development, and certainly not least, climate change and resilience. As a result of this principled and pragmatic approach, Jamaica's international profile has been significantly raised, and Prime Minister Holness has been invited to participate in various international fora, such as summits of the G7, G20, and of course, the BRICS Plus in South Africa. PM Holness has also been invited to co-chair several United Nations high-level initiatives with the Secretary General and heads of government, such as Prime Ministers Trudeau and President Macron. Prime Minister Holness is also a strong proponent of Afro-Caribbean synergy, and this has been reflected in Jamaica's bilateral and multilateral efforts. His visits to Namibia and South Africa were undertaken in that spirit, as was his hosting of the presidents of Ghana and Kenya in Jamaica. Planned visits for 2020 were sadly postponed, but will undoubtedly be revisited when travel normalizes. Excellencies, the bonds between South Africa and Jamaica are strong and continue to manifest in friendship and solidarity, as we remain focused on forging even stronger strategic, economic, cultural, and political cooperation between our people. Excellencies, without more, I would like to give the floor to a gentleman and a leader who has certainly put Jamaica on a good path and who is suited, undoubtedly, to participate in this conversation on a destiny of peace, prosperity, unity, and strength. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dr. Vereen Shepherd, Professor of Social History and Director of the Center for Reparation Research at the University of the West Indies. His Excellency, Matalema Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa and a great friend of Jamaica. Senator, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Jamaica. The Honorable Dr. Grace Naledi Pandor, Minister of International Relations and Corporations of South Africa. The Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. Her Excellency, Lukma Yangeni, High Commissioner of the Republic of South Africa to Jamaica. Other distinguished Africa Day webinar program participants, officials, academics, partners, and stakeholders joining for these important deliberations. Ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media, good day. I stand proudly alongside my brother and friend, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, on the occasion of Africa Day 2021, to engage in conversation aimed at forging pathways to peace, prosperity, strength, and unity between continental Africans and other people of African descent. Today's conversation will develop a momentum towards identifying actions which will be actively pursued together to improve the lives of our people. We are resolved that our common goal to create real solutions for a better and stronger future for our people will be realized in this generation. As a liberated people who have emerged from a history of enslavement, colonialism, and oppressive regimes, Africa Day is a special time for celebration and reflection. I'm therefore grateful to you, President Ramaphosa, for sharing this platform to engage on such a significant occasion. I welcome the opportunity to focus on shared ideals for progress, peace, and prosperity, which have been aptly captured by the Program of Activities for International Decade for the People of African Descent, 2015 to 2024. In order to address the present, it is important to understand and repair the past, which for us carries the aberrant and centuries-long practices of enslavement, discrimination, and segregation. On both sides of the Atlantic, we have used the language, rhythm, and tactics of resistance and resilience to secure independence. Today, we lead conversations which critically assess the true measure of our strides and shape the journey towards truth, justice, reconciliation, and reparation, precursors to any attainment of lasting stability and development in the continent and its diaspora. Today, we also recall our ancestors and their indomitable spirit and sacrifice, which sustain us and our efforts. We name those we can: Kojo, Nani, Taki, and Sam Sharp, and reflect on others. We honor them as freedom fighters. We reject any notion of them being criminals, and we have so legislated this in our parliament. It has been 31 years since Nelson Mandela's long walk to freedom, and 6 years into the international decade for people of African descent. But our collective global journey as African peoples continues in the conquest and quest for justice. This includes eradicating the inequities which have caused persistent poverty and disenfranchisement of the peoples of the continent and its 6th region, despite our inherent wealth and natural endowment. These inequities have been magnified by the pandemic, in which the people of African descent have suffered disproportionately, both in health and economic terms. Our people are also disproportionately affected by climate change, and in the global space, do not enjoy equitable access to education, justice, and equal treatment. The imperative is to harness our wealth and resources, and with equal urgency, we need to rebalance existing international and economic structures in favor of our accelerated development and dignity. Our history teaches us that united, victory is assured. It is the lesson of the Maroon Wars and the struggle against apartheid. We are inextricably bound by bloodline and a shared history. We must therefore be determined to complete the mission of being a fully liberated people, economically independent and resilient. We must strive to overcome systemic and institutional prejudices, inequitable healthcare and education, and all other residues of enslavement and colonialism that have undermined our progress and prosperity. We recognize that our separation geospatially and psychologically has had a negative effect on all Africans and people of African descent. We must teach our history as a deliberation and celebration of ourselves, grounded in our glorious experiences and not only as oppression. This requires us to reclaim and proclaim our identity and destiny of greatness. As Prime Minister, I have been clear and consistent in my engagements with our partners and within regional and multilateral fora that there must be equity of access to the world's resources for all peoples if we're going to have any hope for peace and development globally. Africa cannot be denied opportunities, nor can the Caribbean, if we are to truly advance the ethos that no one must be left behind. I say this especially in regard to access to vaccines. It cannot be morally justified that rich countries, many of whom gained their wealth and scientific advantage through the exploitation of Africa and its people, now use this wealth and scientific advantage to hoard and stockpile vaccines, while the poor and historically exploited and deprived countries wait in uncertainty to access equitable and consistent supplies, their populations at risk and their economies on pause. it would be the greatest setback for mankind if inequitable vaccine access were to cause uneven recovery and a widening of the development gap between the rich and poor globally. I take the opportunity to commend the government of the Republic of South Africa, and in particular, President Ramaphosa, for his vision in establishing the African Union's African Vaccine Acquisition Trust and the African Medical Supplies Platform. I also express deep appreciation for allowing CARICOM countries such as Jamaica access and participation in these initiatives. This has not only become a critical lifeline for our COVID-19 vaccination response, but a flagship example of South-South cooperation on critical developmental matters, leveraging the purchasing power of Africa as a whole on behalf of smaller, more dispersed populations. Long-standing efforts through the World Trade Organization to introduce fairness and balance in the global trading system have long evaded success. The impact on our countries remains worrying. Economic partnership agreements introduced a new dimension into the special arrangements which came out of our colonial past, yet the record of performance has been mixed and far from encouraging. Through you, Mr. President, I also salute the African Union for the advances it has made in the establishment of the Africa Continental Free Trade Association, a model for the rest of us, and one which grows in strength with each accession. There are significant opportunities for lucrative trade, investment, and tourism links between Africa and the Caribbean, but they have been stymied by a lack of connectivity. Last December, we were happy to welcome to Jamaica the inaugural direct flight from Nigeria to Kingston by Air Peace Airlines, owned by Nigerian business interests. Additional flight arrangements are being pursued to create even more powerful engagement and exchange of a range of goods and services between the continent and its sixth region. Recently, the government of Jamaica, that is, appointed our first ambassador, special envoy for investment to Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Togo. We are actively pursuing the trade and investment routes that support our business opportunities. We are preparing to unleash new strategies for travel, trade, and investment anchored in the will of our people to unite. There is need for government policies and intergovernmental arrangements to facilitate contacts between our countries to foment even higher levels of trade and investment with economic returns to our people. This will require us to define the goods and services for which we are globally competitive and redirect our investment and trade arrangements to include Africa and its diaspora. Jamaica is prepared to promote itself as a hub for this type of trade and investment arrangement between Africa and the Caribbean and the Americas, activating the African diaspora of the Caribbean and the Americas as the sixth region of the African Union is an imperative. The formation of the new geopolitical force, that is the Africa Group CARICOM, is a significant milestone to deepen ties on social, economic, cultural, and other issues of common interest. I was looking forward to participating in the first ever summit of heads of government of the African Union and CARICOM, which was contemplated for June last year. Its postponement is sadly another casualty of the pandemic. We look forward to its eventual convening, as we believe this mechanism, among others, will bring us closer to bridging the divide and driving momentum towards a structured modality for engagement. United, we will eradicate the scourge of poverty and associated ills we have experienced, to include extreme inequalities and social injustice. United, we will achieve the goal of the Global Agenda 2030 and the Agenda 2063 of the African Union to eradicate poverty. On behalf of our citizens, we will build an international economic order predicated on an equitable distribution of wealth within and among nations, which supports expanded opportunities for entrepreneurship and creative enterprise. Our common vision of development, which focuses on our most important resource, the talents and abilities of our people, compels us to exponentially increase our investment in them. The culture and creative industries require greater investment from governments. Our African and Afro-descendant cultures have competitive advantage and are in great demand internationally. UNCTAD has indicated that Africans and the people of African descent represent the major element of knowledge and expertise in the creative sector. The United Nations adopted a resolution declaring 2021 the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. Our governments need to increase investment in the creative economy and harness the economic opportunities created by our people's creative genius. Within the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports, we have launched Jamaica Creative, an initiative geared to create an enabling environment for the cultural and creative industries to thrive. Jamaica is also to pioneer legislation governing and streamlining the creative sector. As we have done with other blocks, it is of utmost importance that we urgently pursue preferential trade and economic arrangements and those which designate creative and other products as local products of continental Africa and vice versa. As we pursue South-South realignment, Africans and people of African descent must work together to demand reparations from European colonial powers for the damage caused to our people who endured over 400 years of enslavement with continuance in post-slavery governance and economic arrangements. Our engagement with not only countries but institutions which benefited from the brutal system of enslavement must also be to that end. And we will provide mechanisms for reparations to be made and paid. Much work has been carried out by the National Council on Reparation in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports, and the Center for Reparations Research of the University of the West Indies. Also, the work of the P.J. Patterson Center for Africa Caribbean Advocacy in Jamaica signals the collaborative and necessary work we require of our universities. We also recognize the work of the Institute for Global African Affairs in Johannesburg and the institute and the institutions of other universities established in continental Africa. It must be universally acknowledged that every child on the continent and in its diaspora must be assured of high quality, relevant education and access to technology leveraged to innovate and meet the challenges of our time. We cannot assure ourselves of peace, prosperous, strong, and unified societies without technology. We must be prepared to invest in our people with the innovative and entrepreneurial talent and ability to become global competitive creators and innovators. We must collaborate in achieving this, using models which already exist to harness the best of our people and creating new ones where there are none which meet our needs. In closing, the future of African-Caribbean relations is filled with promise and potential. We have the opportunity to build on our deep emotional ties based on a shared history, culture, and sense of a common identity to forge a partnership that can be a political, social, and economic force that can transform the lives of all our people. It will require the investment of time, attention, and political will to realize this potential. Let us unite behind a vision and roadmap towards global African unity, which elevates the African people and the people of African descent to the highest levels of greatness and possibilities. Let us recommit to the mission of Garvey, Mandela, and Nkrumah to manifest a united Africa and Africans as a great force for good in the world. I thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, Most Honorable Andrew Holness. You know, your comments about vaccine imperialism, my word, not yours, but I think that's a sentiment, resonates with so many people on so many levels. Because really, viruses are by themselves neutral. They slip into our lives without motives and agendas. But when they meet that other pandemic of racism and imperialism and post-colonialist attitudes, then that's where we have a problem. You are right in your call to end that inequality. Before we hear from His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. the Honorable Grace Naledi Pandor, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation for South Africa. She is going to introduce her president. The Honorable Grace Naledi Pandor was appointed as the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation on 30th June 2019. She was Minister of Higher Education and Training from 27 February 2018 to 25 May 2019. She was the Minister of Science and Technology of the Republic of South Africa from 26 May 2014 until 26 February 2018. She has been a member of Parliament since 1994 and a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, or ANC, since 2002. And you must have noticed the way in which she's truly a counterpart of Senator the Honorable Kamila Johnson-Smith, Education, and then International Relations and Foreign Affairs. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, Professor Vereen Shepherd, His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, my esteemed colleague, the Honorable Kamila Johnson-Smith, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Jamaica, the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport of Jamaica, Her Excellency High Commissioner Lumka Yengeni, Her Excellency High Commissioner Comfort, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings from South Africa on this Africa Day to all the distinguished participants. I wish to begin by thanking the Honorable Prime Minister for this initiative, a very important webinar on a critical subject. Today we celebrate Africa, all over Africa and within the diaspora. We also use the time to reflect on the enormous socioeconomic challenges we must still attend to, while acknowledging the progress we have made. The establishment of the Organization of African Unity on 25th May 1963 was a critical step forward in the then still fierce fight for the end of colonialism and apartheid. We celebrate Africa Day today during the time of COVID-19, a pandemic that has had a devastating impact on our societies. It has highlighted the need for even greater solidarity between Africa and the African diaspora in supporting each other to overcome this scourge, particularly by ensuring that vaccines, diagnostics, and other tools are available and distributed equally around the world. And of course, working together in investing in the economic recovery of Africa and the Caribbean. The Caribbean region is our 6th region of the African Union definition of the African diaspora. It's a strategic partner for our country, South Africa, and for the entire continent of Africa, and can be an important spur in the pursuit of Africa's development through aspirations outlined in our Agenda 2063 of the Africa we want. Action on this collaboration is illustrated by the very important collaboration between South Africa and Jamaica through our High Commission in Kingston and the Jamaican Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport in hosting webinars of this kind, which enhance the relationship between our countries and our regions. My simple task today is the privilege of introducing our President of South Africa. It therefore gives me great pleasure on behalf of my country and our government to welcome His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa to commence with today's keynote address. But before he does so, let me introduce him, something I know he doesn't always like us to do. President Ramaphosa has experienced the entire spectrum of what it means to be a Black person under racist, oppressive regimes. His family was forcibly removed from the then Western Native Township to Soweto in 1962 as a result of the Group Areas Apartheid Act that defined the spaces that Blacks were allowed to live and work in. These experiences inspired President Ramaphosa to become a leader of the South African Student Organization while he was studying at university. His activism against apartheid, and indeed his support for other anti-colonial struggles in the Southern African region, led to him being detained without trial for lengthy periods in 1974 and in 1976. Cyril Ramaphosa helped to establish one of South Africa's largest trade unions, the National Union of Mine Workers, in 1982, and became its first Secretary General. The struggle of the union was not only for workers' rights and political freedoms in South Africa, it also mobilized for those same rights in other African countries. The National Union of Mine Workers was a key platform to build the Congress of South African Trade Unions and the United Democratic Front, which worked with the ANC to liberate South Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa was elected as the ANC Secretary General in 1991 and played a key role in the negotiations that led to our first democratic elections, as well as a key role in the establishment of our constitutional democracy through his role as chairperson of the Constitutional Assembly that gave life to the Constitution, which we celebrate in its 25th anniversary this year. This work was followed by key roles in business and international organizations before he became Deputy President of South Africa in 2014 and President in 2018. President Ramaphosa served with distinction as Chair of the African Union in 2020 and ably steered a coordinated and effective African response to the COVID-19 pandemic. He leads South Africa's participation in the BRICS Forum, the G7 outreach, and in the G20 Forum. Our president is therefore well placed based on his past and his current roles as President of South Africa, with excellent leadership on the continent to address us on issues of importance to our relationship with the diaspora on this Africa Day. Mr. President, over to you. I thank you.
Of Jamaica, my very good friend and brother, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports of Jamaica, Ms. Olivia Grange, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Jamaica, Ms. Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Dr. Naledi Grace Mandi Sapando, and Her Excellency, the High Commissioner, Angela Comfort, Her Excellency, High Commissioner Lumka Yengeni, and distinguished participants in this webinar, and ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and a very rare and singular privilege to join you in this conversation as we celebrate Africa Day. Our thanks go to the people and the government of Jamaica, and to you, my good friend, Prime Minister Holness, for having called me and spoke to me about this webinar many moons ago that demonstrates your forward planning. I thank you for hosting this engagement and for reminding us of our shared heritage, our shared values, our shared aspirations, and indeed, our shared future. Today, we celebrate the unity of the African people, those who live on the continent, and those who are in the diaspora of African descent. Today, we celebrate the ties that bind us together, ties that no ocean, be it the Atlantic Ocean or any other, no slave trader, no war, and no pandemic can tear asunder. This is the day on which we commemorate the establishment of the African Organization of African Unity nearly 60 years ago, 1963, which we now refer to as the African Union. The world was a vastly different place back then when the OAU was established. Jamaica had just gained independence the year before, joining a wave of movements that were sweeping across much of the global south. The people of South Africa were still suffering under a very cruel, racist regime. And it would be a full 58 years before we attained our freedom. The great luminaries and thinkers of the Caribbean were at the heart of the Pan-Africanist movement that inspired our own liberation struggle. I speak here of C.L.R. James and Henry Sylvester Williams of Trinidad, Frantz Fanon of Martinique, Walter Rodney of Guyana, and Marcus Mosiah Garvey of Jamaica, among others. I also speak here of General Toussaint Louverture, who was the leader of the Haitian Revolution, of the Cuban internationalists, and of the many men and women from the region who played a leading role in struggles against oppression, racism, fascism, and colonialism. I speak also of Robert Nesta Marley, one of Jamaica's most famous sons, whose music didn't define just one generation, but continues to provide hope and inspiration to people around the world even today. It was these sons and daughters of Africa whose ideas, proclamations, and actions contributed so much to the drive for African unity, independence, and self-reliance. This conversation today is particularly meaningful for us as South Africa. We remember with the deepest of humility and gratitude the invaluable support from Jamaica. Jamaica gave our struggle a real big boost of support. Jamaica was one of the first countries to impose a trade embargo on apartheid South Africa and supported successive UN resolutions aimed at the elimination of apartheid. In 1987, the President of the African National Congress, which I lead today, Oliver Tambo, visited Jamaica and delivered an important speech in Kingston on the unity of the African diaspora. We recall the joyous reception that Nelson Mandela received in Jamaica in 1991, following his release from prison. It is a testament to the unwavering support of the Jamaican people for the struggle for our freedom that 3 Jamaican prime ministers, P.J. Patterson, Edward Seaga, and Michael Manley, who have been bestowed with our National Order of the Companions of O.R. Tambo. That cherished relationship continues into the present, driving our shared efforts to build a more just, peaceful, and inclusive global community. Our common African heritage provides the rich soil from which our common future will grow. Since the countries of Africa gained their independence, as apartheid and minority rule was defeated, we have sought to cultivate the relationships between the peoples of Africa and the Caribbean diaspora. The inaugural Global African Diaspora Summit in Johannesburg in 2012 was the culmination of years of engagements and consultations, giving clear form and focus to our collective aspirations. We must acknowledge the progress that we have made in forging unity within the diaspora with our brothers and sisters who are of African descent. The diaspora agenda is now fully integrated into the activities of the African Union. For example, the Citizens and Diaspora Directorate of the African Union is working on documenting the valuable work of people of African descent in the Caribbean in providing humanitarian assistance in emergencies and pandemics. The diaspora has an important role to play in meeting the aspirations of the AU's Agenda 2063 and also in helping African countries to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. At the 34th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union in February, the years 2021 to 2031 were declared as the decade of African roots and diasporas. This is an initiative aimed at strengthening the role and contribution of people from African roots and diaspora to the economic, social, and cultural development of the African continent. Now, the diaspora is the 6th region of the African continent in terms of the AU, signaling our desire to build ever closer relations and our determination to deepen collaboration between bodies like the African Union and CARICOM. Many people in the African diaspora are actively engaged in the continent's development. This global African community, made up of people of African descent, represents a vast pool of knowledge, expertise, energy, and commitment, able to make a tremendous contribution to Africa's growth and progress. The African Union's theme for 2021 is Arts, Culture, and Heritage, levers for building the Africa that we want. This is part of our effort to enhance the contribution of art, culture, and heritage as a catalyst for social and economic development and integration. It is an opportunity to explore, to celebrate, and develop all of Africa's cultural treasures, both those that reside on this side of the Atlantic and those that reside on your side. Our shared histories provide many opportunities to deliver a unified message to the world about the vast potential of the African continent. These are opportunities to influence policies that unlock trade, investment, and development. At the same time, our common histories and experiences must be harnessed in the cause of justice for the descendants of victims of the transatlantic slave trade. We commend the advocacy of the government of Jamaica as part of the CARICOM Reparations Commission for Reconciliation, Truth, and Justice for victims of slavery and their descendants. Just as the world must recognize the horrific crimes committed against people of African descent, so too must it acknowledge that the devastating social and economic legacy of slavery continues into the present. This is about a struggle to recognize the intergenerational trauma that lingers still and that has held back development of whole societies. It is about the restoration of dignity, about justice, and about building a better future for all. Your Excellency, my brother, now more than ever, as the world confronts the pandemic that is gripping the entire world, we are called upon to act in unity and solidarity. As we stood together against colonialism, as well as apartheid and injustice, now we must stand together to overcome the coronavirus pandemic. Our struggle, however, is not just against a virus. It is a struggle against the deep inequalities that have so severely hampered global efforts to contain the pandemic and have left so many societies vulnerable to hardship and despair. It is therefore a priority that we must confront and overcome all forms of global injustice that favor the few at the expense of the many. We must confront the vaccine apartheid that is allowing wealthy countries to buy up vaccines whilst less resourced developing countries languish in the queue. South Africa and India have sponsored a proposal at the World Trade Organization for a temporary TRIPS waiver to allow countries in need to produce COVID-19 vaccines and medical products. Now, I want to use this opportunity to thank Jamaica for supporting the proposal that we've put forward from the floor. With your support and the support of an ever-growing list of countries, I have no doubt that we will prevail. We also welcome your ongoing support for the Access to COVID Tools Accelerator as it works to provide equitable access for all to vaccines, diagnostics, and treatment. This Africa Day, it is our ardent wish that we deepen our collaboration to overcome poverty, inequality, underdevelopment, disease, illiteracy, gender-based violence, and conflict. And I know, my dear brother, that these are matters that are also very close to your heart. In my exchange with you, I have felt the heartbeat of your heart in support of ensuring that we build a better world, and that the peoples of Africa, the peoples of African descent in the Caribbean, must also live a better life. In doing so, we are guided by the overarching objective of finding African solutions for African problems. Solutions that are going to be fit for purpose also for people of African descent in the Caribbean. During our tenure as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council in 2019, South Africa and other African members of the Council worked closely with the Caribbean nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This organic cooperation was a practical demonstration of Africa-Caribbean partnership for peace and security. We share a common commitment to building a continent that is stable, developed, prosperous, and capable of delivering the better life that all its people yearn for. Sustainable peace can only be achieved by building a just world, a rules-based international order that is inclusive and that addresses the root causes of conflict, such as poverty and underdevelopment. In January this year, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area came into operation. It establishes a continental market of some 1.3 billion people. This is a major milestone towards the economic integration of our continent. And this is the clearest affirmation that Africa is determined to take charge of its own destiny, and that its success is fundamentally tied to harnessing the potential and energies of its people, including those in the diaspora. The African Continental Free Trade Area will improve the prospects of Africa as an investment destination. It will advance the empowerment of Africa's women by improving women's access to trade opportunities, which will in turn facilitate economic freedom for women and expand the productive capacity of countries. As nations that have known oppression and the denial of rights, as a people we remain forever on the side of justice for the oppressed wherever they are. We must all be concerned about the resurgence in many parts of the world of racism, ultranationalism, xenophobia, and other forms of intolerance. We stand united behind the Black Lives Matter movement because it is Black men, women, and children who are more often than not on the receiving end of prejudice and violence. Ours is a movement for respect, for human rights, and for the affirmation of our dignity. In the words of Marcus Garvey, our desire, he said, is for a place in the world not to disturb the tranquility of others, but to lay down our burden and rest our weary backs and feet by the banks of the Niger, and sing our songs and chant our hymns to the God of Ethiopia. Yes, he continued, we want rest from the toil of centuries, rest of political freedom, rest of economic and industrial liberty, rest to be socially free and unmolested, rest from lynching and burning, rest from discrimination of all kinds. Close quotes. As a people who have known centuries of suffering, oppression, we have a moral duty to stand with the Palestinian people and the people of Western Sahara in their quest for nationhood and self-determination. We know that freedom for only some is freedom for none. We share a common position that reform of the UN system is urgently needed. We need a fair system of global governance that allows for the voices of all countries, big or small, to be heard regardless of their economic strength or military might. It is my hope that this dialogue will serve as a catalyst for decisive action and lead to the deepening of partnerships between our continent, Africa, and those who are in the Caribbean of African descent. This is the time for us to unite and to work together and to continue the onward march to prosperity and progress as a united people of African descent. I'd like to thank you for organizing this wonderful webinar where we are able to exchange views and thoughts across the Atlantic. And my brother, I'd like to thank you, and I'm hoping that we will be able to see each other soon once this pandemic has subsided quite substantially. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that inspiring address. And I should say, Nkosi, thank you for reminding us of the role of Trinidadian Henry Sylvester Williams and his collaborators, the forerunners, if you wish, to 1958 and 1963. Thank you for invoking the ideological position of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, because that was always there, inspiring our ancestors of Africa Day, the OAU, and the AU. Thank you for reminding us about the International Decade for People of African Descent. I'm so proud as a Jamaican that I was chair of the working group of experts on people of African descent at the United Nations in Geneva, and that I walked the entire process through drafting the program of activities for the International Decade. That has really marked my work at the United Nations. We are into the 6th year. Together, we must see that we do what is right. And it was not without opposition, and you would remember Durban 2001 and the struggles over the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. And that, of course, influenced some of what we went through in drafting the International Decade. And thank you for reminding us that we must continue to fight against racial discrimination. And I'm really proud that Jamaica and South Africa have members on the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the CERD, and together, Jamaica and South Africa and 16 other members are fighting this scourge around the world. But, Your Excellency, a luta continua victory is certain. Before I call on Honorable Minister Grange to give the vote of thanks and to lead us into the next session, introduce the next session, I think, again, based on your speech, we need a Marley, because I think you started to say unto the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned. Everywhere is war. That's not what we want. We want one love. So let Julian Marley take that away.
One, one, one. One, 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 one. Hey! One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Hey! Let's get together and feel alright. Whoa! Let them men pass all their dirty remarks. There is one question I really love to ask. Is there a place for the hopeless sinners who have hurt all mankind just to save the zone to believe it? One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. So when the man comes, there will be no doom. Have pity on those whose chances go fairness. There ain't no hiding place from the Father of creation. Singing one love, Lord of mercy. And let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Got to unite right now. Got to live in love right now. Let's get together and feel alright. Unite, yeah. East, west, north, and south. No matter where you are, gotta get together now.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. I want to thank His Excellency President Ramaphosa and the most honorable Andrew Holness for providing the insight and inspiration that they have, and for setting out a roadmap to repair our past, secure enduring justice, reclaim our identity, and engage in the strategic work and collaboration which will unify us around advancing the welfare of our people and our whole human race. We commit to multiplying the dividends of the investment we have made today to strengthen the bond among our people. It is indeed an honor and a great assurance to navigate the global space with fixity of purpose, in locked step and sisterhood with my colleagues, Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith, and distinguished counterpart, the Honorable Dr. Grace Naledi Pandor of South Africa. I count too in this number Professor Vereen Shepherd, who ably moderated today's proceedings and who keeps our history ever before us, while in parallel pursuing paths of equity and peace for our people. We who are charged to lead will continue to carry out the mandate of our respective citizens to expand opportunities for connectivity between us, leverage our strengths, and accelerate development. We commit to maintaining activism and action which will honor the sacrifice of those who fought, suffered, and died. We will never forget those who were forced to endure the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. We remember those who martyred themselves on the journey in protest and those who never reached our shores, like the hundreds we commemorate who were thrown overboard for convenience in one of the greatest travesties, the Zong Massacre. I commend the tremendous work and contribution of the National Council on Reparation and all our partners for the bold steps that have made today a reality and will inform the policies that will lead us to success. Your Excellency, Yangeni, for your commitment to this mission and the success of today, we express our appreciation to you and your delegation. We look forward to the journey ahead that will bring to our global audiences a continuation of these exchanges that will have us realize in this generation our due recognition as a people, justice, peace, security, and prosperity. We close this session today with a renewed sense of purpose and resolve to secure reparation for our people, achieve African unity, pragmatic Pan-Africanism, and one love. We look forward to the continuation of the conversation after a short interval of our cultural offerings, which will lead to a high-level discussion, which will close today's proceedings. So as I close, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prime Minister. Today is a glorious day. Today, Africa Day. All that is left for me to say, in Marcus Garvey's words, up, up, you mighty race, accomplish what you will. God bless you all. Thank you so much.